Good evening, friends. Welcome to the first lecture of Managerial Economics. We'll be uploading the image first of the lecture, then the video link for the same will be shared with you of the first lecture. So, before we move on with our series of lectures, I, Ram Kalani, teach you the subject Managerial Economics for the first semester. I heartily welcome you to this prestigious Department of Management Science, wherein you're going to have greater experiences which will lead you to make a better human being. In continuation of doing that, I'm here to teach you about the subject Managerial Economics. Before we move on with respect to the subject, let us try to understand why this subject has been included in the syllabus of MBA. To understand that, we need to understand certain things. Like, for example, you take a decision to get up early in the morning, you take a decision to attend online lectures, you take a decision to buy a certain mobile phone, you take a decision to eat something at a particular place, you take a decision to buy clothes of a certain brand at a certain price from a certain place for a certain reason. You take a decision not to attend lectures also, right? That's also a very valid decision. Now, why I'm talking about all this is because every moment we are taking a decision to do something or not to do something. We are taking a decision to mess up everything, or we are taking a decision to be clear about everything, which in a nutshell brings to a crucial function called as decision making. So, managerial economics helps one to understand about the intricacies or the inherent things that are involved with respect to decision making. You don't take a decision at random, right? You take into consideration all the pros and cons of taking that particular decision and arrive at a conclusion, arrive at a decision that this is what I am going to do today, or this is what I am not going to do tomorrow onwards. Which means, amongst the given alternatives, right, you might be trying to take a decision which gives you optimum benefit, right? Not maximum benefit, but optimum benefit. There is a clear distinction between what is maximum and what is optimum. That we'll be studying later on in our following lectures. Today, what we are going to understand is the bigger part of the subject, that is what we call it as economics. So, we are trying to understand what is economics. Economics fundamentally is, it comes from the word oikos, right? So, what we are trying to say is, we are going to talk about what is economics. Economics comes from the word economize. In other words, what is that? It is optimize. Right? It's the word optimize. You derive at a conclusion to optimize, right? Optimize is not maximize. Right? So what is it? Maximum, if you see, let me give a very clear example of that. the minimum passing percentage for any given subject of a 100-mark subject is 40. Maximum is 100. So optimum lies between the two. What is optimum? Since you have taken so much of efforts, your result, you're taking efforts to the extent that you're going to score above 75%, right? So optimization is related with the amount of efforts you take to arrive at that particular conclusion. You cannot get maximum marks, right? 100 out of 100 is near impossibility. So what do you try to do? You try to put in so much of efforts that you almost reach your optimum level of performance, right? Let me give one more example. The athlete tried to put in his or her best efforts so that he can achieve the record within the shortest possible time, right? That is what we call it as optimization of efforts. So here also what we are optimizing? We are optimizing decisions. Like I told you about various decisions you undertake every day, you try to prioritize. The other word is also economize, is prioritizing of our decisions. Which decision should be taken first? How many times should it be taken in a day so that you achieve this much of level of performance? So economics answers or provides answers to the question what, how and for whom should we produce. This fundamentally is related with three aspects of economics. One is production, distribution and consumption. Economics revolves around these three factors: production, distribution and consumption. How much production should be produced so that it gives you this much of profits? Or how are you going to develop distribution channels so that the product reaches a maximum number of people with a minimum of costs? How are you going to get the product into the market so that the product is consumed on a large scale with less amount of distribution expenses? So this is what this whole economics revolves around, these three things: production, distribution and consumption. So in a way, we have to balance all these three factors, and the questions that arise because of that is what, how and for whom should we produce. Because unless we are not clear about what to produce, we may not know how we are going to distribute, how people are going to consume, right? Or in another matter, how we are going to produce a product will lead us to better distribution and consumption. For whom to produce? So economics answers these questions, or economic questions of this nature, they are answered by economics. Now, why economics? Let us leave aside for a moment what is economics. Let us try to come back here. Needs, wants and desires. This whole drama, this whole circus of economics revolves around these three things: needs, wants and desires. Needs, ज़रूरतें, wants, चाहते, desires, इच्छाएं. So first we try to, what do we try to do? We try to fulfill our needs. Fulfill. Needs are fulfilled, right? Wants are met, right? And desires are sorry, here it should be wants are satisfied and desires are met. Right? What I mean to say is, everything about economics revolves around these three aspects: needs, wants, and desires. Their needs, they are fulfilled. You don't have much of a choice. You have to fulfill your needs. That is roti, kapda, or makan needs. Right? Wants, I want this, I want that. So what do you try to do? If you're shifting from needs to wants, you need to understand the economics comes into play. I want this. So what you're going to do, if you say I want this, you're going to sacrifice something. Right? Now what you're going to sacrifice is a decision. Right? So what you're going to sacrifice, how you're going to do it, you're going to optimize that decision. I am sacrificing this because I want this, I want that. So economics revolves when you start moving from needs to wants. And when you move from wants to desires, I desire to have this thing means you'll have to sacrifice a lot of wants. Then you're going to see that you're going to meet your desires. So, now why this thing is because in everyday life, we are always juggling these things, needs, wants, and desires. Sometimes if you want this thing, you'll have to sacrifice some needs. Sometimes if you want to meet your desires, you're going to sacrifice your wants. We are trying to understand this thing because we have to optimize our decisions. We're not going to take decisions irrationally, right? In economics, decisions are taken on rationality. Now, what is rationality? Rationality means that you try to justify whatever you are undertaking. That is what we call it as rationalization of decisions. You don't take decisions at random or on a whim or just because यार नहीं मेरे को मन में आ गया तो अपन ऐसा करते हैं. No, that is not the case. So what do you try to do? You try to justify your decisions. Even if you go to a movie, you try to, I want to watch a movie. You're trying to justify your want. You're going to say that, oh, that movie is good, or the characterization of that movie is very good. The director of that movie is good, or I may be a better person if I watch that movie. You're trying to justify it. So economics is all about optimization, or in other words, in plain simple words, it is justification of our actions so that we derive maximum satisfaction. So whatever actions we undertake in such a manner in order to achieve maximum out of minimum of efforts. That is what we call it as optimization. Now, why do these questions arise? These questions arise because we want more than we can get. We are never satisfied. Right? So we never satisfied. Why? Because we want more than we can get. Say for example, if I have 2 pair of trousers, I may think of having one more. Right? If I have one black and one blue, I might say, no, I require a grey trouser. So what is that? We try to have more than we have. That is why these questions arise. What each one of us can get is limited by time, by the incomes, and the prices we must pay. We have certain limitations with respect to time, with respect to incomes, and with respect to prices. So when we have these limitations, we need to take decisions within these limitations, and that is what we call it as economize, optimize, maximize, justify, whatever you call it. So, since what each one of us can get is restricted by time, income, some people might not have time to buy, some people might not have incomes to spend, or in other words, some people might not be able to afford the prices. So what do you try to do? If you're not able to do something, you're trying to have maximum satisfaction out of something, and that is what we call it as optimum decision making. Now remember, the word optimum, decision making, resources, scarcity, all these are coming. So don't get confused. Take it easy. Things will be better as time passes on. So hence, why this is not, we are not able to get everything what we want is because resources are also limited. They are also limited. So hence, our inability to satisfy all wants is called a scarcity. We're not able to satisfy all our wants. I can't satisfy my all wants. My son cannot satisfy all his wants, or my daughter cannot satisfy all her wants. Nobody can satisfy everyone's wants because resources are limited. Each one of us is limited by incomes, prices, and time. And our inability to do so results in scarcity. So when we have a scarcity of situation, what do we try to do? We try to derive the optimum from the available resources. So deriving the optimum from the available resources is what we call it as economics. That's all for now. Keep watching, keep looking out for the next video link of this Managerial Economics lecture series. Thank you.